I want to do a discussion related to the King of Fighters XIV. I felt like that it's coming, and I felt like that I was going to end up doing this anyway. But, yes, in case you guys haven't heard of, the King of Fighters XIV is coming to North America thanks to Atlas USA. And we all know that Atlas USA has published King of Fighters XIII. However, this is not the big thing to talk about when it comes to King of Fighters 2014. We gotta talk about the game itself. The King of Fighters will not be using sprites. As a matter of fact, the game will be entirely in 3D, but will still retain the 2D fighting gameplay. However, this has been happening before when it came to Street Fighter IV. Killer Instinct did the same thing, and it was no surprise that another developer would end up doing this with a flagship fighting game franchise. As a matter of fact, there are plenty of games that end up being 2D platformers, 2D shooters, and they end up being 3D with 2D gameplay. And it's a pattern that we gotta look into. Now, keep in mind that King of Fighters have gone 3D before, and that is the Maximum Impact games. And of course, while the Maximum Impact games were not favorited as often as the other King of Fighters games, the Maximum Impact series still had a cult following, and I still enjoyed King of Fighters 2006. As King of Fighters XIV looks to pretty much improve over the Maximum Impact series, and of course bring back the 2D gameplay and when it came to the transition to 3D. However, I'll have to worry about the graphics later, however, I just gave myself an interesting question. Will the King of Fighters XIV pick off from KOF 13? And unfortunately, it's another scenario where I'm going to have to wait until the game releases to find out, and that kind of sucks. When it comes to the 3D graphics, yes, it needs improvement. But, hey, as long as the game is still good, I'm up for it. And I want to comment on the inclusion of Mai Shiranui. And of course, there's a lot of people who are fans of Mai Shiranui. And yes, they're going to go out in the comments and say, no Mai, no buy. And of course, they're going to pull out Mai Shiranui. They've made a King of Fighters without Mai. And boy, oh boy, it was the salt in the fucking wound. And yes, I'm talking about King of Fighters 12. 12 was like a $10 download game sold for like $50. King of Fighters 13 helped me forget about that mess. Going back to 14, while the graphics do need improvement, I'm not going to nitpick the game for its graphics. I just want the game to be as good as previous games. Or at least do good as a King of Fighters game. I still remain excited for King of Fighters 14, and I can't wait for that game to come out and see how the game plays. If the game plays like a good King of Fighters game, I will be happy, because that's what I wanted. That's all I want to talk about for King of Fighters XIV, and I'll be looking forward to you in the next video.